Now, a portrait of another kind, involving a true American hero. Correspondent James Rosen has the story of Louis Zamperini.
75 summers ago, American athletes arrived in Berlin for the 1936 Olympics, presided over by Adolf Hitler. That year's sensation was track star Jesse Owens, who shattered records and Nazi claims of racial supremacy. Also competing that summer was Louis Zamperini of Torrance, California, who finished the 5,000-meter event with a stunning final sprint under Hitler's watchful eye. From his home in the Hollywood Hills, Zamperini, now 93, remembers.
I was invited to meet Hitler, and just a quick hand touch, and that was it. And he just simply said, the boy with the fast finish.
Even before Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, Louis had enlisted in the Army Air Corps. He was assigned to drop bombs from this B-24, nicknamed Superman. Based at Hawaii's Hickam Field, Louis bombed Wake Island and a phosphate plant on Nauru Island.
And we were told to flatten it. I bombed the runway and the bombers and the factory, and then I had one alternate bomb, and I dropped it on a shack that was a fuel supply. And a cloud of smoke shot in the air as high as we were, 8,000 feet.
Suddenly, Superman was being pursued by 9 Japanese fighter planes.
And we took on 600 bullet holes, 5 cannon holes, right tail shot off, left tire flattened, blood all over the plane. And we had 7 men seriously injured, got them back alive, 1 died.
Louis had narrowly escaped death, but not long after, in May 1943, he was ordered to undertake a search and rescue mission in this notoriously faulty B-24, nicknamed the Green Hornet. And
so we're flying along, and number 1 motor goes out. And then as we crashed, I ducked down low and held onto that raft. I knew this was it. I'm dead.
Louis and 2 crewmates survived, but one, pilot Russell Allen Phillips, was badly wounded. Attacked by sharks and Japanese fighter planes, starving, sick, and wasting away, the trio would drift 2,000 miles on a pair of flimsy life rafts.
The tail gunner, he panicked. He got on his knees on the raft and he started screaming, "We're going to die, we're all going to die."
In time, that tail gunner, Francis McNamara, would redeem himself by saving Louis' life. But on their 33rd day at sea, McNamara died. 14 days after that, Louis and Phillips, each down to about 80 pounds, half his body weight, were rescued by the Japanese, only to be sent to the most hellish POW camps in the Pacific. Back home, Louis, the Olympic hero of Torrance, California, was officially declared dead. But over the next 2 years, he would live through unspeakably savage cruelty at the hands of his Japanese captors, and one sadistic commandant in particular, Mutsuhiro Watanabe, a.k.a. the Bird.
I had nightmares on this bird guy. I mean, if I looked away from his eyes, he punched me out for looking away. If I stared in his eyes, he punched me for staring in his eyes. Every day he did something to me. He hit me over the head with a big, probably a 2-pound steel buckle, cracked my skull open. I'm down on the ground bleeding. He hands me a piece of toilet paper to wipe the blood. And then he says, "Oh, like, I'm sorry." And I thought, well, he can't be so bad after all. So I wiped the blood off. I stood up, I wiped it, and I looked at it, and he hit me again.
With the end of the war, Louis would be rescued and repatriated, a national hero risen from the dead. He married and published his life story, the second time an updated version. Yet the nightmares continued, a lingering form of torture by the Bird, Watanabe, by then an accused war criminal on the run, destined to live quietly until his death in 2003. Louis, meantime, descended into alcoholism, and his wife Cynthia was fixing to leave him.
We were falling apart.
But then, in the fall of 1949, prompted by Cynthia, Louis attended a religious revival led by a dynamic young preacher who was delivering the gospel in a tent in Los Angeles. And there, the tormented former POW found salvation.
The Reverend Dr. Billy Graham brings the word.
There are 2 roads. One leads to judgment and destruction and hell, and the other leads to life in this life and life to come and heaven.
She had gone down to hear Billy Graham and gave her life over to God through Christ. So I realized what a heel I was, turned my back on God, and I went to the prayer room and and made a confession of my faith in Christ, and it just, my whole life was revolutionized in a moment.
The rest of his life, Louis spent mentoring troubled youth. He would run again, carrying the torch in the 1984 Olympics, and he would return to Japan, once to forgive his old prison guards, and again in 1998 to carry the torch at the Nagano Winter Games. His story is told anew with fresh evidence and harrowing detail in the bestseller Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand, author also of Seabiscuit. In this, his 10th decade of life, Louis Zamperini tends his garden but does not nourish the notion of himself as a hero.
I have people call me, write me letters, "Oh, you're an inspiration." I go to the VA hospital and I see guys in wheelchairs with a leg off, 2 legs off, an arm off. To me, the real heroes are people that lose their limbs and things like that.
For Fox News, I'm James Rosen.